retirement industry is hoping for some clarity in today's budget speech. Last week, Cabinet made a U-turn on its decision to change the country's pension tax laws. An amendment will be tabled in Parliament to push back the implementation of the laws, which were set to come into effect next month. Well, let's discuss this issue and the importance of retirement and tax reforms in South Africa. Stephen Nathan, CEO of 10 Times Investments, joins us now from Cape Town studios. Stephen, a very good morning to you and thank you for your time. Now, we know that this entire issue caused panic when it came around. We know that the announcement of the postponement hasn't actually smoothed things over very much. We know COSATU vowing to go ahead with its protest action against it. What do you want to hear from Pravin Gordhan today?
Well, I think the main thing that people want to know is certainty, because it's very difficult to say for the long run if you're not certain of what kind of tax environment, what kind of flexibility environment you're going to be doing. And government's overall objective with retirement reform is to make sure we have a bigger savings pool, and that savings pool lasts longer and there's less burden on the state, because the more people are underprovided, the more government has to provide that and the more debt we have to take on as a government. So I think people and the industry is looking for certainty as to what exactly can we expect over the next 5-10 years, rather than working on 1-year increments which keep changing.
How has this affected the industry on the whole, Stephen? I mean, like we say, people are still panicking. Are you seeing, what are the questions that recipients and people who are investing now, what are they coming to you with?
It's very sad. What we're seeing as an industry is people are focusing on the wrong issues. Most people believe that government is stopping you from accessing your pension fund or your provident fund at any time before you retire. So if you change jobs, you can't get access to your pension fund, and if you have financial hardships, you have nowhere to turn. And that isn't the case. Government has not spoken about what's called compulsory preservation. They've spoken about compulsory annuitization, which only affects you at retirement. So sadly, there's a tremendous amount of misunderstanding. What can I do? What can't I do? And people really are asking the wrong questions. So it's been miscommunication, and that's very sad, and it's caused the industry lots of expenses, and it's caused people lots of anxiety. And we've seen a tremendous amount of people resigning merely to get access to their pension or provident fund, when that in fact wasn't the issue on the table.
All right, and this brings us to vested rights and like what you're talking about, people who aren't of retirement age and who have, that their assets cannot be taken away by a third party when they are dismissed or when they are or when they decide that they want to resign. So what are the concerns that they are coming to? What are we seeing this actually affecting people who want to enter into the job market? Are we seeing the knock-on effects there? Is it worrying them?
It's definitely worrying them. So what we're seeing is people saying, I'm not going to contribute any more to my provident fund because government is effectively nationalizing my provident fund, or is not allowing me flexibility to take my money when I need it. And so that's incorrect. We're seeing people wanting to resign from the employer to get their provident fund, or we're seeing people saying, I want to take my provident fund even if I don't resign. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of negative sentiment towards retirement savings, which means people don't have confidence in the system because of this uncertainty. And as I said, the uncertainty and the concerns people have is misplaced, because that was never government's intention in the first place.
So what would be the ideal situation for things to stay the same, or do you think there needs to be movement, there needs to be change in how these things are dealt with, as in pensions and provident funds, or is it working? Why and should it not be fixed if it's not broken?
Well, government overall is saying that the retirement system is unnecessarily complex and expensive. And it's complex and expensive for two reasons. The first is that legislation is really complex. If you're in a retirement annuity, a pension or provident fund, there's different rules around tax, when I can access my money, how much I can take. So that's expensive, and it's expensive to maintain, and it's complex. So when things are complex, people tend to either disengage, or they tend to go to advisors, and they can incur costs which are unnecessary. The retirement industry, government has benchmarked against global standards, and it's way too high. The cost of people saving for their retirement is just too high in South Africa, and people aren't getting the best value for their savings. So government is trying to reduce the cost of investing, which is good for retirement savings. But what government has learned is that they need to get all stakeholders on board well before they make any announcements, because it causes tremendous uncertainty and in some cases panic amongst retirement savers, and the industry also incurs tremendous cost in educating people, in changing systems, only to be told at the last minute that nothing is happening.
So what are you saying to people who are coming to you now and saying, look, we don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. How do you advise me? What do I do with all of these things that I need to take for my future when I do retire?
I think the most important point for people to understand is that government is trying to help retirement savers get better value for their money and to stay in the system longer so that they can accrue better value over the long run. So everything government has done is actually friendly towards long-term savers. So there's no reason to disengage from the system or not to invest in the system. So ensure that you are saving enough and that you are doing so in a cost-friendly environment, because government has highlighted most people don't know what fees they're paying for their retirement savings. So a lot of work government has done and is doing is very positive for us as long-term savers, as retirement fund savers. But unfortunately, the communication has been not very good. They haven't got all stakeholders on board, and that's created lots of uncertainty. And also there's lots of views that are wrong out there. So a lot of people are getting a lot of airtime and they're saying the wrong things, and people are making decisions based upon the wrong information.
And a lot of suspicion. There doesn't seem to be a lot of trust around the issue, is there, Stephen?
Sadly, that's exactly right. So sadly, we lack trust as a nation. We lack trust between government, business and labour, and it's spilled over into the retirement fund industry because, as I said, what government is doing, the intentions are very good for all of us. There haven't been any instances where government has mentioned anything about nationalisation or telling you where to invest your retirement fund. So it's all been positive, but it's been misinterpreted, and sadly people are making wrong decisions and they're losing confidence in a system, and that system is actually being strengthened to their benefit.
All right, so that's what the Finance Minister will have to take into consideration when he addresses this issue today. Thank you very much, Stephen Nathan, CEO of 10 Times Investments. He's in our Cape Town studios for us this morning.